Hello, everyone. Welcome to program WRSA Radio. I am host G1. As always, I hope you have good week. Just kidding. I was just working through, who might be in charge later on. So in our future. So I was trying out a new opening just in case my audience might change or our political overlords might change. But anyway, man, I'm running myself ragged over the last week. Too much stuff to do and not enough time to do it all in. It's been crazy. I don't even see getting a break this weekend, as I have a full one planned to get in. Well, I'm trying to get in a trip to the gun show and work on some online classes I'm taking as well. No rest for the weary, I guess, as they say. Anyway, what do we have on the menu for the show today? Well, we got a couple of things. People responded very well to the information on prepping for potential unpleasantness coming up in post-election America, so I will be continuing that. But first, I want to highlight a few things going on just to continue to inform the decisions we are making, kind of in that same space, I guess. So what do we hit first? Well, let's look at the Donald and his position regarding the election. It looks, for all intents and purposes, that the Dems are practically giving up on the election. They seem to be making a lot of preparations, a lot of movement behind the scenes to try to stymie what Trump would do in his next term, and they're kind of getting their head around the idea of Trump being in office again. Trump is swelling his lead in the polls. He's getting swole in the poll, and the people are turning against Joe Biden in every one of his traditional blocks, except for, like, your most radical Trump haters and the kind of even the fringe elements of the blue party. Most people seem to have concluded that, for all his faults, they were better off when Trump was in office and the government was fighting him and not focused on ruining everyone else in the country. Can Trump win the office by being the focal point for all the progressive communist rage? I don't know. I can speculate. Well, I can't speculate. I can speculate, but I can't. Can't get too deep on that because the algorithms on YouTube will pull down the episodes. So since I post the video on YouTube as well as other platforms, I just won't go there. I'll leave it for you to decide. I can say that I think the likelihood of, well, let's say something fishy happening is going down. That does not mean that it will not happen. It just means that unless something changes in the next couple of months, I think we're likely to see Trump reelected. And honestly, I think that means trouble for us. And why do I say trouble? Well, this result is not going to please those hardcore blue voters, and their penchant for hitting the street to peacefully protest is well known. So, as I've been talking about over the last few episodes, that means you could be faced with a need to flee urban or even suburban areas, at least for a limited time. Now, all of that is in addition to the international threats and escalations that we have also seen going on over the last few weeks, few months, and we've talked about those on the last few episodes as well. But it's all just doubling down on why you might be faced with the need to get mobile and get moving. And that's the key takeaway from all this. We could go into more details and more information, and honestly, I think you guys are probably bombarded enough with that stuff on the other platforms. So I'm not gonna spend too much time going deep into that. I want to talk about what you can do about it, what you actually have control over. And so that's the key takeaway. If you are urban or suburban, your mindset needs to be along the lines of not, should I leave, but when should I leave? get out as soon as you can is the answer there. If you can make the move now to a rural area or at least a more remote suburban area, then I would advise you to do that. Just whatever you can do to permanently relocate. I think you really need to be considering that and working through all of the logistics of how to make that happen. I would advise at least one county outside of metro areas, probably further if you can get out, but at least one county away. If you're already in a smaller city area, I would use Macon, Georgia as an example of that. I would still think about how you can get to a more remote area and off the main lines of drift. I don't think that even those smaller cities, I don't think they have anything going for them either. They're just as dangerous as the big cities when things go nuts. And even if you're only capable of doing this for a short period of time, it's better than nothing. Okay, maybe you can't permanently relocate, but you can get out for a little while. You don't have to own property. Okay, let me explain what I'm talking about here. Let's say you're in a suburban area. However, you know that you don't have time to purchase a new home or rent a new place or buy a piece of property out in a rural area. That's okay. It doesn't mean that all is lost and many people get overwhelmed with things. They see something like that and they hear someone telling them, get out now, get out. And they go, well, where am I going to go? I don't have a place to go. And they just shut down from it. And they just say, well, you know what? I'll just deal with it where I'm at. Okay. Don't think that way. Okay. All is not lost. Let's say you're in that suburban area, however, you know that you don't have the time to purchase that property or that home or whatever. What I want you to do is go on YouTube and watch as many videos as you can on stealth camping. This is where people are filming themselves camping in places as low profile as possible, hidden away, small to no footprint. So there are ways that you can hide, even along those routes of drift that might normally be a problem, but there are ways as a last resort that you can do that. For instance, camping in the wooded areas along the interstate highways. Those little wooden spaces or wooded spaces on the exit ramps, or behind billboards, things like that. Be thinking along those lines. Be thinking about how you can camp out of your car, for example. And then take some weekend trips and find locations in rural areas that you can do this for a short period of time. Now, don't trespass. That's not what I'm suggesting, okay? I'm not telling you to go out and, oh, here's a field. I'll just park it out here in this field. No, somebody owns that field, and in times of emergency, they might be watching out for that. So keep that in mind. That's not what I'm telling you to do. Find some public land, or perhaps maybe you can find something that's owned by a corporation, a big industry or something, that they're not going to come out there and look at that property on a consistent basis. And you can stay there for a short time. Be good stewards. Don't make a mess. That's not, don't do that kind of thing. But just a place that you can hide out for a short period of time and still remain mobile, okay? You locate more than one location. You may find a place that you think, okay, this is a spot that I can go, it's public, and you get there and it's full of people or somebody's there, what have you, and they run you off. They say, oh, no, I can't have you here, or what have you. Or maybe you get somewhere and somebody comes along and says, hey, this is my property, you need to get off. And I didn't think it was yours, sorry, and now you got to go. So have some redundancy, have some extra locations that you can find there. Mobility and redundancy are the key here. If you do happen to know people in rural areas, just ask if you can park on their property. Because when you're making these kinds of moves, that should mean to you that you need to prepare your vehicle for short-term occupation. And that means you likely can't just stuff it full of so much stuff that it's you in the driver's seat or you and your spouse or something like that. and you don't have any room to actually stay in the car. Okay, you need to be thinking about a short move may mean that you have to make some stops along the way, and so you're going to have to camp out along your path. You may not have room for all the things that you want to take with you or you think that you're going to take. So if you do know someone, you might want to move some of your preparations to their property to cache it now prior to anything happening. So get in touch with them and confirm that you can stash those things. Make a trip out to transport the things, hide them or store them, whatever you're going to do there. And while you're out on that trip, look for hiding spots along your route of travel. Think of multiple routes of travel. Okay, take one route on your trip out, stash your stuff, and then when you're coming back, take a different route. And all along that way, you scout out locations that you might be able to pull in and haul out for the night. Hey, I can stay here. Or during the day. Maybe you stay during the day, you move during the night. However things work out for you. But do that as a reconnaissance of that route. Now, thinking of limited space in a vehicle, what do you focus on taking with you? Well, let's go back to those categories that we talked about in the last episode. Go through those and prioritize what you have that is easily transportable. If it's larger or more difficult, think about moving it now. Okay, that goes in that stash of gear that you're moving out there and hiding. Make your last minute gear that you plan on taking with you on the run, make it your smallest, most portable stuff. And I would advise being as, let's call it ruthless as possible with regard to what you're going to take here, okay? Having lived in the field, either camping or hiking or training, whatever, I've been, lived out in the woods and in the field for multiple days at a time, week at a time sometimes. I can tell you that if you have to abandon your vehicle and you have to carry things in a pack, you're going to have even less space, okay? Weight sucks. I can't tell you how many times I've seen guys training come out with this massive rucksack and it's stuffed to the gills with things that they don't need, and they kill themselves making just a little 2-mile hike, okay? Or moving a couple of clicks or something like that. It's far worse than you think it's going to be. Okay, this idea that people think of, I'm going to bug out with my rucksack, that's a last minute resort thing, last resort kind of thing, guys. That should not be your primary plan. I know everybody likes to think that that's the way it's got to be, but that should be your last option, okay? Walking has its advantages, of course, but something like a bike is better. An electric bike or a gas-powered bike is better than a pedal bike, and a car and a truck is better than a powered bike. So maybe if you have a bike rack on your vehicle, you can have a backup there. But you got to think in phases of this. Now some people may be thinking, well, bro, if you set out in a car, you're asking for trouble. Well, there's truth to that, no doubt. That's why you need to be vigilant. I'm not just talking about while you're driving. I'm talking about well before you ever leave. Recall, I said the question is not if you would be leaving, but when should you leave? And the answer is as soon as you can. As soon as you think there's going to be a problem, you need to be leaving. And that is the reason why you can drive and move in a vehicle when everybody else still hasn't figured out that something bad is happening. It's going to be just like day-to-day things. Everybody's going to be going about their business, and you might be able to make that move out to safety, or relative safety at least, in an hour. Whereas if you wait and more people begin to realize, oh no, there's a problem, that might take you days to make it. And then you do run into the issues of you're driving on a road and someone doesn't want you to be driving on that road and bad things happen. Don't think about it. Don't debate about it. Grab your gear, load it up, and go. That is the short of it, okay? So you may be wrong by making the decision to do that, but all it's going to cost you is a night's sleep in your car or at a buddy's house or friend's house or wherever you're going out on that property, out in that rural area. That's it. That's all it costs you. But that means that you have to prioritize watching that information and data flow so that you can read the tea leaves here. And then you need to be thinking about the minimums you need in those categories I talked about that we were getting to. Load and go, okay? So to give you some ideas and help with what some of that may look like, let's have a look at water and water security. Remember, I talked a little bit about water security last week, kind of dove into that. I said water is a critical one. It's absolutely, it's the most critical one in my opinion. And I have some recent experience with moving water in a very humid and hot environment for a group of people by hand. And I can tell you that it is a very tough thing to do. You can't operate and do things forward as a group if you don't have secure water source in your back pocket. And I mean that figuratively. The problem that you face is that water is heavy. You know, a 5-gallon water jerry can filled up is going to weigh something like 35 pounds, 36 pounds, something like that. I don't know it off the top of my head because, you know, I don't know how much the can itself weighs. It's not terribly heavy, but still something around 35 pounds. If you're planning on carrying one a good distance, it's a challenge to do that and navigate and pay attention to your surroundings and make sure that you don't get ambushed. Navigating in a place that you may not be familiar with, you're going to need to be looking at a compass, you're going to need to be doing pace counts, things like that, and you're going to need to be paying attention to what's going on around you. And you're going to find that very difficult to do if you're humping a can in both hands, okay? I do highly recommend the Scepter water cans, which can be purchased at Lowe's or Lowe's online, or you can find them in Army surplus stores, that kind of thing. But you get brand new ones at Lowe's. And they're a little more expensive, but they are very durable and very well made, and they do the intended job very well. If you can get the gas can versions of them, which I happen to know can be bought and shipped into the U.S. from Canada, at least one at a time, you will be far more happy with those gas can jerry cans than the garbage designed by committee gas cans that the U.S. government forces us to buy here. I speak from experience there. Anyway, those 5-gallon jerry cans can ride very well on an old Alice pack frame with the rucksack removed and the pack shelf added. You don't even have to have the pack shelf if you've got multiple bungee cords, but you get the shelf, it's going to ride a lot easier. But you get a few bungee cords, it sits right on that shelf, you strap it to the frame, and you're good to go. It's way easier than trying to carry those things by hand. The problem is that you're moving that can, you're not able to carry a lot of the other stuff that you have. You're taking that rucksack off and you're just putting the can on there. Well, now you don't have the rucksack. So the bottom line is that the can is perfect for a vehicle, but if you have to go on foot, you just can't carry enough water. And that means you have to focus on filtration and small water bottles for any kind of ruck or hiking, okay? Do you start to see how the layering and the redundancy works here? You get the filters like the Sawyer filter and the Nalgene bottles or USGI canteens for your ruck and on your battle belt or your gear, whatever you got. But you get that 5-gallon jerry can for the car. You get 2 of them. You should be fine with 2 of those jerry cans in a vehicle for a couple of people for a few days, okay? And then you can refill those jerry cans at a clean water source, or even if you need to filter and refill them. And then when you need to leave, you fill from that water can into your canteens and your Nalgene bottles and that kind of stuff. And if you get enough water out of that jerry can, then you can carry it much easier. You know, you distribute it to all your people. You carry that empty can or you carry that lighter can so much easier than the full can. And you drink from that jerry can along the way before you deplete your canteens and stuff. you still want to keep the can. You want a storage vessel for that size or about that size for any encampment that you might have to have. So when you get into a place that you can hide, if you're picking your hide spot really, really good, then you've got a source of water close by, and you can filter that can and fill it back up again. Some things to think about in addition to that water can, though, is hygiene. Recall I mentioned that was also important last week in the security. I recommend that you get a laundry detergent container that has one of those pour spouts on it, and you empty it of detergent. So once you've used it all, maybe your wife or spouse, whomever's doing the laundry, has used all of it. Grab one of those containers. Hey, we want to save that. Fill that thing up full of hand soap, and now you've got a container of soap that can be turned on its side with that spout and used as a dispenser. If it's a good general purpose soap, then you can wash everything with it. You can wash your dishes, you can wash your hands, you can wash your body, your hair, all that. You don't need 3 different types of soap in an emergency, okay? One big container will do. What you are trying to do here is to get into the mentality of less is more, and how do I get as much use out of a single item as possible? You don't want single taskers, you want multitaskers, okay? And you might not think, well, I'm not going to be washing my dishes. Or yeah, you need to be doing that, okay? You need to be cleaning your stuff because you don't want to get sick. You get sick out in the field when you don't have as much water and you don't have, a good source of that clean water. You're going to regret it. You're going to die. I mean, that's just the bottom line. In an emergency kind of grid down kind of situation, you don't have clean water and you get something like dysentery or diarrhea, something like that, you are in trouble, okay? So you want to have clean dishes, you want to have clean utensils, clean hands when you're trying to eat food and drink and things like that. And you want to keep your body as clean as you can, as clean as possible to avoid bacteria and things like that. So hygiene is extremely important. You need a secure source of that as well. Okay, that is all we have time for this week. We'll get into more of these details in the weeks coming as I start to delve into each of these additional areas. Put more in the comments section on ideas that you have to be compact for travel and camping. I want to hear those things. Everybody can contribute to this conversation. So put those things in the comments. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab, Nice Crew, and the Dry Dock at the Cold Fury blog. And I'll see you on next episode.